Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McGraw, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is me. That is, I'm doing a brief update on the podcast and making a few announcements. So it's been more than a year since I launched this podcast. We've had 59 episodes. There have been over 20,000 listens. So not a bad start. It hasn't completely taken hold, but I appreciate all of you who listen and listen on a regular basis. The three most popular episodes thus far would be Jimmy Carr, Will Anderson, and Alonzo Bowden. So all very prominent, famous stand-up comedians with big followings. And it's been a great experience so far. It's required me to use some different skills, in particular learn to listen and track a conversation. And as you probably can tell, I've updated my gear along the way, so the sound quality has improved. So thank you for bearing with me early on in the podcast as I was getting things sorted. I have my own set of favorite episodes. Look, I like all of them. I've gotten a lot from them in total. But if you are new to the podcast, I would say you could reach back to episode number 9. Gillian Cosgriff is a very funny Aussie comedian who is also a musician, and we had a wide-ranging, enjoyable conversation there. Number 14, Jimmy Carr. That's the most popular one thus far. I've known Jimmy for many years, and we had a really spirited conversation. He's incredibly smart and incredibly funny. One of the longer podcasts I did was number 26 with Neil Brennan. I've also known Neil for many, many years, and we talked at length about his post-Chappelle life and his rise in prominence as a stand-up as a result of his Netflix special called 3 Mics. And then more recently, number 45 with Jen O'Donnell. Jen is super smart and funny, and we just had a really, really interesting, fun conversation, actually one that I often reflect on. So if you are new, you may want to check those out. I am committed to doing at least 100 of these podcast episodes before I make a decision about whether I continue or whether I choose to focus on other things. Although I have to admit that I do enjoy podcasting so much. Even if I were to shut this down after 100, I'd have to think very hard about what I would do instead. This is a really nice compliment to the writing that I do on a daily basis. A few announcements. I am headed to Los Angeles starting in July for a year-long sabbatical. So you should expect a lot more special guests on the pod. As you might imagine, LA is filled with interesting, funny people. And I'm committed to doing the podcast in person. So I have not done any Skype online interviews with anyone. And so being in a big city like that just gets me access to really interesting people. While I'm in LA, I'm going to be doing some other comedy-related stuff. I've taken the Upright Citizens Brigade, also known as UCB, their 101 and 201 improv classes. And if you don't know UCB, they are the world's number one trainer of improvisers. So they have training centers in Los Angeles and New York and train more improvisers than anyone out there. And so I'm going to be taking 301 and 401 if they'll have me, which I think will be really challenging and also a lot of fun, a lot of play. I'm also planning on taking a sketch writing class, so just diving more deeply into other aspects of how to make comedy as a way to stretch myself and then also to inform the research and the work that I've been doing. I'm probably going to do a live podcast for I'm Not Joking at some point in Los Angeles. I've done 2 so far, and I think they're a nice change of pace. It has a different kind of dynamic that are there, so look for that. Speaking of live comedy, I will also be doing a live episode of my comedy game show called Funny or True, which pits the scientists against comedians to see who has the best blend of brains and funny bone. That's a super fun, entertaining show, and so I'll be putting that together. It's been a couple years since I've done a live show of Funny or True. There's a lot of things that I'm going to be doing on the sabbatical. I don't want to get into all of them, but I'm actually also, I think I've alluded to it in an earlier pod, I am working on a new secret project, so stay tuned for that. But one big thing that I'm going to do during that time is I'm working on a new book project. It's called Stick to Business, and it's the major project that I'll be doing during that time. Stick to Business looks at the lives of funny people, at the masters of comedy, and takes insights from their practices and perspectives. You know, these are people who do an incredibly difficult thing, creating laughter out of nothing, and the techniques that they use, the state of the art that they have at their disposal, I believe can be useful for everyday people and certainly for people who are pursuing professional development, creativity, innovation, people who are trying to build businesses and so on. And so I'm going to be writing about that. I already have a really outstanding business keynote for Stick to Business. It's by far the best business talk I've ever given. I have a workshop that I've developed in conjunction with an MBA student here at the University of Colorado. And so I'm in the process of updating my website, and so you'll be able to find out more information about that project when the site is launched. And just want to say to everyone, thank you so much for listening. It's really been a good time. We'll be back next week with a real funny person. Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guests, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others. Join Dr. Peter McGraw next week for another fun, fascinating conversation on I'm Not Joking.